Today I want to show and review these new pricking irons that I've just got from Kevin Lee Tools. I will talk about all the considerations I made before purchasing a new set of pricking irons and the reasons why I chose this one. Then, later on in the video, I will test them out by punching in some stitching holes to see them in action and have a look what the stitching looks like using them. Now, let's get started. These are a set of black diamond pricking irons in 2.7mm spacing from Kevin Lee Tools. These irons arrived very quickly, only 4 days after I purchased them, and were packed into this bamboo box with each of the irons separately wrapped in foam and then packing paper. These are a set of 2 and 8 prong irons. You can get away without buying a 1 prong iron, as you can just use a stitching awl for a single hole instead. The more prongs on your bigger iron will get you straighter looking long stitch lines, and a 2 prong is a must for punching in curved stitching lines. Each iron is made from one piece of solid steel with the prongs polished to a mirror finish and the handle coated in what looks like a black anti-rust finish. Each iron has a logo and its spacing marked into the top of the handles. These irons are above average in length and quite thick at the top, making them quite hefty and feel really solid in hand. Combined with the good finishing on the prongs and handle, these look and feel very high quality. Kevin Lee positions these black diamond irons as the middle tier of 3 pricking iron models that are available. The top tier of Kevin Lee irons are the French style, and the bottom tier is also a French style but a more basic type. I'm already quite impressed with this mid-tier model, so I'm interested to see how much better the top tier pricking irons are. Having said that, of all the 3 tiers, I think these black diamonds look the best, with both the unique shape and black coloring making them stand out compared to other pricking irons. This time, when I was looking for new pricking irons, I wanted something with a very small spacing that would be suitable for a watch strap. The size that I was looking for was 2.7mm spacing, which is 2 sizes smaller than my 3.38mm Cinnabrooks irons. I did take a look at a few different brands to see which ones had what I was looking for, including Cinnabrooks, KS Blade, Crimson Hides, and Kevin Lee. With KS Blade and Cinnabrooks, the smaller spacing irons they have are 3mm. However, both brands have really wide prongs at 2.1 and 2.2mm respectively, which do not work well with a small project like a watch strap, where there is limited space for a stitching line, especially if you want to add a contour to the middle of the watch strap. Crimson Hides and Kevin Lee both had 2.7mm size, and both had options for French and Japanese style pricking irons. Compared to those other brands, these black diamond irons are the least expensive, costing only $110, where a similar set from other brands would be around $150 to $200. In the end, I decided to go with Kevin Lee irons as they were more competitively priced, and also because they gave me the opportunity to try out a different brand. These black diamond pricking irons are a Japanese style iron with pointed tips rather than the French style which has flat tipped prongs. I really like the Japanese style of pricking iron as I find it a lot more simpler to punch clean and accurate stitching lines. After you've marked in your stitching line with dividers, you can simply set the points of the prongs in the middle of the stitching line and punch away. For me, that is much simpler than with the French style, where you must position your pricking irons either side of the stitching line, or even harder if you position your prongs centered on the stitching line, where your stitches may end up snaking if not exactly aligned. These black diamonds are modern type irons with thin prongs that make very narrow stitching holes, more akin to the French style irons and different to the more squarish holes made by normal Japanese chisels. This allows you to punch cleanly through thick leather, making using an awl not required. And then the polished prongs make them easy to pull out of even thick leather. To determine the slanting angle of these irons, I can punch in a row of holes on a straight line. After marking a line extending from one of the holes, I can measure the angle of one of the stitching holes, in which it is around 45 to 50 degrees, which is on par with most of the French style pricking irons and will give similar looking stitches. Now I want to do a quick comparison between these black diamonds and the Crimson Hides irons, because they're the most similar picking irons in terms of form and style. On the surface, both irons have a similar dark anti-rust finish and polished prongs. However, the design of the handle is very different. The Kevin Lee handles are considerably longer than the Crimson Hides, which may make them a bit awkward to use, but at the same time should make it easier to keep them completely vertical when punching in holes, as it will be very easy to tell if you are leaning over to one side. The other difference is on the thickness of the handle, where you can easily see the Kevin Lee irons are around double the thickness of the Crimson Hides at the striking point. Both these things together make the Kevin Lee irons around 40% heavier. What all this means is, at least in my opinion, is that the black diamonds offer the same or better level of quality than the Crimson Hides, and at $40 cheaper for a similar set, makes these great value for your money. The main drawback I have with these black diamond pricking irons are that the selection options were very limited, only allowing for a 2 and an 8 prong set with an option for a 1 or a 15 prong iron. This is a big drawback, as an 8 prong 2.7mm spacing iron only covers 19mm. For a larger spacing iron, say with 3.85mm, 8 prongs would cover 27mm, which is a lot more reasonable. I would have liked to see more options, like a 2 and a 10 prong set or a 2 and a 12 prong set, which I think would have been a lot more practical to use. I plan to use these irons for small projects, so I can go without the 15 prong irons option, which is a good thing because the 15 prong irons cost an additional $160 on top of the $110 for a 2 and an 8 prong set. Now let's punch in a row of stitching holes so we can see how the stitches look. This is a piece of vegetable tan leather that I've glued together with the grain side showing on the outside of both sides. The combined thickness of this piece is around 2mm. I will start by marking in a stitching line with dividers and place the tips of the prongs on the center of the stitching line. Here I have completely punched through the leather and will not need to use an awl for stitching. With Japanese style pricking irons, it is very important that the prongs completely go through the leather on the back side, or you will not get the full shape of the hole, and then the stitching will not slant properly on the back. This is why normally I have some leather stuck onto my punching board, as the irons can easily pass through the leather until getting stopped by the plastic board underneath. These prongs are easy to punch and easy to pull out of the leather, as they are factory polished and sharp. Here is a close look at the holes. They look a little bit big now, but we will see again later after I hammer down on the stitches, which should close them up. For stitching, I will be using this Fila Chinois Lan Câble size 632, which is a linen thread around 0.51mm thick. I will start by setting the two thread ends to the same length and then proceed to saddle stitch. If you haven't already seen it, I have another video where I show the method that I use for saddle stitching, so you too can get clean looking stitching on the front and on the back side of your stitching lines. Here is a closer look at how the stitches turned out. I have already hammered down on the stitches on the right half of the sample, and the holes have closed up nicely. Turning it over to see the back side, and it is also looking good, with well-defined stitches on the hammered down half of the stitching line. I'm really happy with the look of these stitches, as they have a nice distinct angle and look very clean on both sides. I am really happy with the look and feel of these new pricking irons. This type of Japanese style pricking irons with the pointy tips allow you to easily line up your irons with a stitching line and punch through quite thick leather, making these a great choice for beginners. And, with the way that they are priced, I think they offer a great value opportunity for anyone looking for a quality set of pricking irons. I'm looking forward to using them in my next project, which is going to be a crocodile leather watch strap. so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and feel free to leave any comments or questions below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.